Okay, now we're going to look at solving quadratic equations by the formula or the formula method. Okay, required skills aren't too hard for this one. Just make sure you're okay with substitution. See if A equals 3, B equals 1. Make sure you work out this fella here. Okay, for this you can just type it straight into a calculator. You can just type in 3 squared plus 1 plus 1 over 3. And if you do that, you will get 9 2/3, which a calculator might just show as 29 over 3. Okay, let's get started. Before I go any further, we have some new notation for this kind of stuff, and that is this symbol here. It's basically a plus sign on top of a minus sign, and it's called plus or minus. So if I had 6 plus or minus 1, I would have two possible answers. It could either be 7 or it could be 5. And again, it could be either of these two answers. We don't know which one, so we have to include both of them. So we're going to look at solving this. The method that you should be very familiar with is we can solve by factorising. In factorising, you would look for two numbers that multiply to give you 1, but add to give you 3. So two numbers multiply to give me 1, and they were going to add to give me 3. However, you try this out, that's basically impossible. The only whole numbers we know that multiply to give me 1 is going to be 1 and 1. And 1 plus 1 is definitely not 3. We could have something like 2 times a half, or 2 times 0.5, but then 2 plus a half isn't 3 either. So it's not obvious where we're going to go with this. In fact, it's basically impossible to solve by factorising, which is why we need this new method. This method is called the quadratic formula. Okay, so if we have any quadratic, as explain how this is used in a second, we have this magical formula that will automatically solve it for you. Only downside of this is you have to remember this fairly awkward thing here. So occasionally hear people say stuff like x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Say it long enough, it does eventually stick in your head. So let's see how it can work. Let's go back to that question we just had, x squared plus 3x plus 1. I want to see how we can solve it. So we basically want to compare this layout to this layout. So a is what's in front of x squared. If there is nothing in front of x squared, that means a equals 1. B is how many x's I have, which is 3. And c is the number by itself, which is 1. And to be fair, that's most of the work done. Now all I'm going to do is plug that information into the quadratic formula. So x equals minus b becomes minus 3, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 3 squared, minus 4ac, so that means minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is also 1, all over 2 lots of a, so 2 times 1. Again, put this in your calculator, make sure you do include those time signs. And to be fair, that's all we need to do. There's no sense to do any more maths than that unless you have to. We'll come to that in a bit. And we can plug that straight into our calculator. Take your calculator here. You just want to copy this as best you can into your calculator. So start with a fraction. We have minus 3. I can't put plus or minus in, so I'm going to do plus first. And I'm going to repeat it all again using minus. So 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times 1. I want to get out of that, so press the down arrow, go to the bottom, 2 times 1. Press equals, that gives me as in surd form or with a square root. I want this as a decimal for what we're doing right now, so I press S to D, and I get my first solution. X equals minus 0.32 if I round. So x equals minus 0.382, I think I said. Yep. Now I want the other solution. This calculator is quite nice. If you use these arrows, you can move along where you're writing. All I want to do is delete the plus, and replace it with a minus, get it to decimal again, and that's my other solution. So in this case, the three significant figures, that would be minus 2.62. Again, make sure you include both of these. And that's it, that's all you need to do. So this is fairly straightforward. Calculator does all the heavy lifting. Only thing you have to do for a test or exam is remember this fairly awkward formula. But once you've got that, then all these questions become so much easier. Okay, some questions to try. As always, I'll show you answers to the first 4 questions in a second. So questions 1 and 2, feel free to pause, give them a go. And same thing for questions 3 and 4. and then again questions 5 and 6. Okay, answer the first 4 questions on the screen now. Okay, just got one little extra thing to go through, and that occasionally you can be asked to solve an equation using the quadratic formula without a calculator. So I'll quickly go through what you do in that case here. I've got my equation. You basically do everything the exact same. So a equals 2, b equals 4, and c equals 1. Write down my quadratic formula. I'm going to plug in what I know. So minus b becomes minus 4. B squared equals 4 squared minus 4 times a times c over 2 lots of a. What we're going to do now is work out everything we can. We're going to be left with something in the square root that normally you can't deal with. It won't be a nice whole number, and you just leave that in the square root. So I'll show you that now. So minus 4 plus a minus. 4 squared is 4 times 4, that's 16. I've got 4 times 2 times 1. That's going to be 8. Remember, in bid maths, you always times first before you subtract. And that is all over 2 times 2, which is 4. We can go a bit further than that. That's going to equal minus 4 plus or minus the square root of 8 all over 4. Okay? And you'll finally leave it out. We can't do anything with the square root of 8. If, and this is a big if, you know how to deal with surds, you can simplify it further, but that's optional right now. And that would come out at being minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 over 2. Okay, I won't explain that now. If you have a video about it, I will link to that in the description. Okay. Otherwise, small questions to try on calculator. The clue is in exams or tests, it will say give your answers in surd form. Surd form just means with a square root. Whenever you see that, that's a massive clue that it is not going to be a whole number. Okay, questions 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 on the screen, and there are 2 more down here. Okay, answers to the first 4 questions are right there. Hope that's fairly straightforward. Good luck and thanks for watching.